Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to the next session in day 2 of the Muslimaat Wordsmith Writer Con. Now, I'm still reading from the last session by Latifa, but we have to go on. And this session is going to be facilitated by Umm Marwan Ibrahim. I'll go ahead and introduce her and then pass the baton to her. Umm Marwan Ibrahim is a freelance editor and writer with over 5 years practice in the field. She has initial experience from places like the International Open University, IIPH, and Muslimaat Magazine. She began her freelancing career in early 2017. Marwan loves to work with independent Islamic authors to help spread the message of Islam and has edited several works of fiction, non-fiction, children's books, poetry, as well as website and app content. Marwan is the author of the e-booklet-cum-workbook titled Knowing Allah Through His 99 Names and Attributes. She is currently in the process of publishing a children's picture book called Dawood Loves His Books, the story of a boy learning about the Qur'an, which is projected to be published by August 2020, inshallah. Now, Marwan will be discussing the topic editing, an indispensable tool in writing. So I'm going to pass the baton to her now.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, alhamdulillah. I hope I'm clear enough and the audio is okay.
I can hear you. There's a little bit of echo in the background.
Right, yeah. I think we'll have to grit our teeth with it because I can't seem to be solving that issue.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's there, inshallah. But you can hear my voice, right?
Yes, I can. I can. I don't think anybody has joined us live yet.
Okay. No one has come in yet, is it?
No, no one has come yet.
Okay, so let me know then if we can, when we can begin, inshallah, then do we start off or do we wait for?
Maybe we should wait a little.
Okay, inshallah.
Should we wait a little?
Okay, inshallah. Let me just begin by sharing the screen. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So you can see the screen, right, Sister Hafsa?
Yes, I can see.
All right. Okay.
We have one person has joined us now.
Okay. I believe this is the third talk of the day, right?
Yes. This is the third talk.
Inshallah.
We have, okay. Okay, we
So,
have two viewers now, so I guess we can go on and others will join us
all
while
right,
the
sure.
talk is on. Alaikum
Okay.
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan for being here.
So, Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum, sisters. Very happy to see a couple of names, inshallah. So then let's begin, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alright, so Alhamdulillah, we begin by the praises of Allah, Alhamdulillah. And I'd like to thank Sister Hafsa bin Surain, Jazakallah khair, Barakallah feek for just having this wonderful opportunity of setting up a platform for discussing important topics related to writing and I guess just helping enhance every writer's journey, right? So Alhamdulillah. Um, so today, inshallah, I will be talking about a very important part of the writing process, and it comes right after you're done with writing a piece. That's right, I'm talking about editing. Alhamdulillah. And the thing with editing is that it can go either way for writers. You know, some writers are really okay with it, they like it, while others sort of dread it, you know. So, whatever the case, the fact of the matter is, and that's what I would like to convey through this presentation, is that a writer, any writer, if you have the idea of getting published someday or the other, we cannot do without editing. And you know, it's a very necessary part and very much a part of the writing process itself. So, just among the sisters that I hear, I just like to know what is your take on editing? Are you the type that likes it or dreads it or somewhere in between? Just want to get a feel of, the attendees here. Yeah.
I'm trying to drop it in the comments.
Thank you, sister. Yeah. Because I'd like to keep the presentation sort of interactive.
Interactive, yes, I understand.
So I would like to get input from the viewers as well. Do you like it or hate it? Yes, that is the apt question. You like it or hate it?
I'm somewhere in between. It's essential, but it can be tasking and frustrating at times.
Yeah. Okay, alhamdulillah.
Now, okay, you can see the chats here.
Yes.
Okay.
Says, she's a novice and she likes it. Sister Bilkis says, I like editing. Okay, alhamdulillah. So, okay, yeah, the point of this presentation, inshallah, would be to realize that, you know, as I said, it's a part of your writing process and to, I guess, to overcome any sort of, dislike you have towards it and actually embrace it and enjoy it because, well, inshallah, we'll get to that. So we begin by the objective. I'd like to just mention the fact that, as I said, editing is a necessary part of our writing. That's the objective behind this presentation. But not only that, I also like all of us to identify and sort of combat the excuses that we give ourselves to avoid editing. You know, because when we have writing as a passion, alhamdulillah, we can go ahead and do it. And there are roadblocks in writing itself, but once we have written and sort of feel accomplished, we shouldn't think we need to know that editing is a part of it, and if we're giving ourselves excuses from avoiding editing, then we need to tackle it, inshallah. And hopefully, this presentation will do that, help you do that. And finally, to briefly demonstrate how editing works, the editing process and how we can go about doing it successfully, inshallah. All right. So we know that writing and editing, or rather, we should be knowing that writing and editing go hand in hand. You know, it's just just like any other process that has two components to it. This the writing process has another component which is editing, and it goes hand in hand with your writing process. And I feel that editing is right now the need of the hour, because Alhamdulillah, mashallah, we have a lot of talks, a lot of speakers, and like even in this conference and even otherwise, that where we talk about writing and how to hone our skills with writing, and how to just better ourselves as writers, and tips for writing successfully, and all of these sort of topics and talks, and which is very much needed and valuable, alhamdulillah. But I feel that where we have talks about writing, we need to incorporate talks about editing as well. It doesn't have to be necessarily an equal growth. I don't mean equally, but at least proportionally, so that we know that the importance and the significance of this process as well. And why I feel that it's the need of the hour right now is um, when in this current era we have self-publishing as a booming industry, mashallah, and it is a major plus. It's a huge advantage for us because we have a lot of leeway in this sense. It's not like how before writers were sort of at the mercy of publishing houses, so to speak. Right now, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of freedom in terms of getting our works out there in the world, alhamdulillah. So, and this has been going on for the past few years now, where self-publishing as an industry, in the writing industry, is booming. But although that is great news, there is, I would say, a downside to the system, which is the fact that this massive leeway that self-publishing gives us, it would result in having all sorts of and all types of works produced and published, even the ones with low quality, right? Because now anyone can publish whatever they wish to, no matter what content it has or how it's presented, and it will be out there, and for people to read, to see, to learn from. So this is where we sort of draw the line and see that we realize that editing is a very necessary part to this process, because we don't want low quality work out there, right? And alhamdulillah, we have a rise in Islamic and Muslim authors, which is mashallah a very something we should be all proud of, alhamdulillah. At the same time, I feel that it's also reason for us to be more cautious of what we put out there, because we don't want to do a half-baked job, and be known for our low standards. In fact, we want to be known as Muslims, as Islamic authors, to be known for our excellent standards, and that's what Islam teaches us. It teaches us ihsan. So when we're talking about editing, we're talking about perfecting it as much as possible. Obviously, nothing is 100% flawless, but something that is at least near perfect and really in good standards, really high quality standards. There's a sister that's having an issue with the audio, is it? I think my audio is not clear. There is some echo. I just request you guys to bear with it, because I can't seem to fix it. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. But are my words, what I'm saying, is it audible? Is it clear?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Although the echo and the background noise is there, but I can hear you.
Okay, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. So, alhamdulillah. So, do you guys see that self-publishing industry? Do you feel it as well, that it's booming, and alhamdulillah, that's where we're getting all the leeway? I'm asking the viewers.
I didn't get that. Self-editing.
Yes, I was asking the viewers, the listeners, if you guys see, if you guys see that self-publishing industry is actually on the rise.
Oh, okay.
Do you see it? That's what I'm asking. Alhamdulillah. Self-editing has self-publishing, yes, has. I hope that's what you mean to say. Self-publishing has become popular now. It's become the norm.
Yes, I think
Alhamdulillah. And there are, yes, exactly. And there are like pluses and minuses for everything, right? So there's the advantage and then there is the downside as well, which is what we want to tackle, inshallah. So let's go on to the next slide. So once we've covered that bit, I'd like to ask, why do we edit? Putting forth this question, why do we edit? Is it even necessary? Can't we do without editing? So these kind of questions, if it comes through your mind, what I'd like to say is that the reasons I'd like to share with you as to why editing is an absolute necessity. It has to do with three of the primary concepts in any writing journey, and fulfilling the rights on them. So we have the writer, we have the content, and we have the reader. Right? This is what these are the components of when we write and when we decide to publish. We have a writer, we have the content, and we have the reader. And each of these components, each of these aspects have their own rights which need to be fulfilled. And I believe that editing does that. It helps fulfill those rights. So when we talk about content, let's begin with the content. So how I've come across and heard of several works that have content that is great. Absolutely remarkable content, mashallah. But maybe the presentation is a little hodgepodge, or there's so many grammatical errors, and there are a lot of typos. Then what happens is all of that takes away from the value of the content. It's because it isn't edited well, that the content and the message in the manuscript, it begins to suffer, right? And I feel that that's just not fair, because if you've got great content, then you want it to reflect in your presentation and the way you put it out there, and just in its effectiveness. So what editing does is that it would set your work up as quality content, inshallah. And if you see, you could easily differentiate between a work that is edited and one that is not edited, and both are not the same. An author who invests her time, her effort, her money, her blood, sweat, tears, everything into having her book edited will not have the same result, and it doesn't. It's not on the same level of value as a writer who doesn't have the book edited, or doesn't edit self-edit the book, right? So these are on completely different levels. This is with regards to the content. Now with the writer, right? How does editing help with fulfilling the right of the writer? So if you publish an unedited piece of work, let's say, and it has a ton of mistakes, and the content is great, okay, but the readers, they won't be able to take you or your work seriously, even though you actually have really good quality content in there. You lose your credibility as an author or a writer. And we may have really powerful words in there, a strong plot, a storyline, accurate information even, but when the reader comes across an unedited work which has so many mistakes in them, they will begin to question your authority as a writer, and that will lead to the downfall, of your manuscript, of your book, right? So in that case as well, you would require editing to fulfill that right. And with regards to the reader, the whole point of writing a book, ensure everyone has their own objectives and their passion, which they are willing to put forward to the world, right? You've got your own objective, your purpose as a writer. The whole point of that will work only when you have a clean and polished book, right? You don't want your reader to be focusing on the mistakes that are there. You want them to be focusing and fully involved in the content and the ideas of your book, not on the problems of grammar and language. So when a reader reads an unedited work of yours, they are bound to be distracted by the errors, and they won't be able to truly enjoy or benefit from that reading experience, what you would want as a writer for your readers, right? So this is why they say that we write for ourselves. So you write for yourself, but you edit for your readers. There are no qualms, there are no doubts about you writing your heart out. You know, you just putting all of your passion down on paper into words. You know, writing is that's something done for yourself, and you need to enjoy it. You need to revel in it, all of that, definitely. But then the moment you decide to put your writing out there for other eyes to read and other hearts to take in and other minds to reflect upon, then you must make a conscious decision to edit your own work and have your work edited. So you are editing because no matter how awesome your content is, it can be only effective when you have an edited and polished work for the readers. So, and this is what would set your book apart as high quality from the not so high quality. So, and again, as Muslim authors and writers of Islamic content, we need to strive for that excellence. For what Islam calls us to and says as that we are the best of nations. So we need to have that, trait as writers, and that's what ihsan is all about, right? Uh, moving another gadget that's near your system. Um, Let me know if it's better in any way. All right, Jazakallah khair. So I'm just hoping this thing gets solved on its own, inshallah. If you can just give me a minute, let me try your piece, inshallah.
I didn't get that.
No, I just meant that let me try getting a earpiece. If you could give me just a
I,
minute.
yes.
Hello?
Hello, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, back online.
Music, I just don't know if it's making any difference. But aside, inshallah, I guess we just have to plow through. All right. The importance of editing. How can you edit your work? And with editing as a process, it could be divided into two steps. The first bit is self-editing. So in self-editing, it's where you as the author are editing your own work at the end of the first draft. So you finished your draft, the final chapter, the final word, the final punctuation mark, and you're completely done with it. What you need to do is you need to leave that rest for a few days or a few weeks and come back to it with fresh eyes. So when you come back to it after this gap, you automatically get a fresh pair of eyes when you go over the manuscript. And when that happens, editing can come naturally. And alhamdulillah, when I say the word editing, it's not something that is huge or something out of the world. We all edit. Everyone edits. Even when we're writing, if you're gonna cut something off somewhere, if you're gonna delete, if you're just gonna add something somewhere, that's all edit. You just need to take it up as a tool. I guess that's the thing. Have the mindset that it's a tool for doing a structural sort of edit for getting your work to be at a better version of itself. So that's what I mean when we are talking about editing, right? So when you come back to it, inshallah, you'll be able to iron out any mistakes you may find. You'll be able to rearrange things if you need to. You could add something somewhere, remove something somewhere, and this would help you self-edit, right? So, And there's one point that I'd like to mention, as I said, is that you don't need to be an editor to self-edit. You just need to perfect your piece as best as you can, inshallah, and that's all that you can do, right? It doesn't mean that you sit passively and feel that you're done with your work just by getting the first draft done, right? Inshallah. So that's the bit about self-editing. Once you're done with self-editing, we have the second step, which is you either hire a professional editor or you use the publishing house that you'd be publishing, with. You'd be using their editing services. Basically, the point of this step is that you have a professional look at your manuscript. They review your manuscript, and that's when the editing stage is actually completely done. Only when you get a professional edit done. And why is that? That's because editors have a better understanding and knowledge of all the technical stuff, like the grammar, the capitalization, punctuation issues, and style guides, and all of these technical aspects of the editing business. They have a better understanding and knowledge of. They also have experience in catching errors which you may have missed during your self edit. And just generally, they have a knack for spotting any inconsistency or anything that could have gone through a loophole. And that's why they are editors. So how everyone has a different set of skills, right? And um, with editors, Allah has given that skill where they've got an eye for these things. So it doesn't make you any less of a writer. You need to know that when you realize that there's a lot of editing done on your manuscript, and this happens with a lot of my clients where I return the manuscript to them with a lot of markings in a lot of places, and sometimes they feel bad, and I understand
They
if
feel
I were in
bad,
that situation.
yes.
Definitely. But you need to know that this does not make you any less of a writer. It is still your message. The manuscript is still yours. The content is still yours. It's from your heart, from your mind. The things that Allah has inspired you to sort of come onto paper, just to convey it. All of that is from you and to Allah's inspiration within you. But it doesn't deny, we can't deny the fact that you would still need polishing for other people. So that's where you use the expertise of editors, right? It's just their expertise, that's all, inshallah. So this shouldn't be something that makes you turn away from going into that step, inshallah. So the next bit that leads us to the next bit where it's very easy for us to give ourselves excuses, for turning a blind eye to editing. One of which is, let's say, laziness, right? We just feel lazy because we're done writing so much. We put all our everything, to get a huge manuscript or whatever. Even it could be a small manuscript also. It's not an issue, but we've done all of that effort and we feel like we are done and we just can't do anymore. To begin, lateness tends to creep in. But I would say to that, if you have put in the effort to draft it, and if you have it in you to actually get a first draft done, completed, then you very well have it in you to redraft it, and it's just going to be easier, because you've gotten the major content, and this is the point that as an editor, that I like to say this, is that the content is already there, right? I just have to polish it as an editor. So that's what you'll be
Mm-hmm.
doing with your self-editing as well. You're just going to be polishing what's already there, right? So that's the responsibility.
Yes.
And I don't think to no time if you feel
Different
like
from
you've got
starting
time.
from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. Subhanallah. It's already there, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same thing goes for, if you feel like you've got no time, then it's the same thing. You had time for it. You made time for it, right? You may not have time, but you have to make the time. Just like how you made the time to compile it all. you can definitely make the time to revise it. And this is another excuse where people think that it's just a children's book, so it doesn't need editing. But subhanAllah, for a children's book, you do need a specific set of skills to edit a children's book specifically. It's not the same as editing a book meant for adults or for young adults. So every genre has its own set of skills that's required for an editor to do. So it's nothing as there's nothing no such thing as just a children's book, right? And another one which is pretty common is that we feel like when a friend of ours or a family member
Uh,
someone sings the audio in here. SubhanAllah. Uh, okay. I don't know if the recording would help as well, right, Sister Hafsa? If the
uh,
recording
it,
have
it,
the
it
for the
should, although the noise will still be there, but perhaps it will be better. I hope so. I hope the recording will be better.
inshallah. All right, let's hope for the best, inshallah. Qadr Allah, it's meant to
Um,
happen. Okay, so yes, another excuse where a friend or a family member has edited and
they will always,
everyone at some
they will
point is
always
guilty of
tell you
this.
you did well. They won't be able to tell the hard truths.
Exactly. And that is the nature of that's natural. There's nothing wrong in it because they see you that way. They're proud of you, alhamdulillah. So
Yes,
they don't see the negatives to it, and that's the nature of that's how Allah has placed it in our hearts.
mm-hmm.
Exactly why you need to get a professional editor look at it because they would be able to look at it objectively, right? And
Yes,
they would be able to call a spade a spade. So it's definitely not the same as having a friend or a family member do it. And the response that I put in there is, would any of us allow a non-surgeon family or friend just because they're a family or friend of a dramatic example, I know the analogy is dramatic, but it's just to drive the point that every profession has its own expertise, and we need to make use of it, right?
yes,
So,
yes, because of it.
Alhamdulillah, and the bit about expense when this is a valid one. A lot of people may have issues with because it could be expensive, and that's no denying. It's because they may definitely be interested in getting edited, but they may not have the funds to do it. So that I would say there are many editors out there with different rates and different prices, and those who are willing to negotiate and accommodate. So you just have to find the right one, inshallah. And above all, what I would say is keep at it. Inshallah, Allah will definitely make a way out. We just have to trust Him. And these excuses that I've listed in here are just a few of the many excuses that our minds can just conjure up, right? I cannot possibly list out all the excuses that we give ourselves, right?
We
So
can't exhaust the list. There are so many.
exactly. I think we need a separate debate and of itself. But the point is, our the excuses they are just limitless. We can come up with how many ever excuses and however creative our minds can get. Those many excuses we can come up with. But the truth of the matter is that if our minds can come up with excuses, then our minds can also come up with its own responses.
Yes,
That it's all in our
I
mindset.
love that. Yes,
Alhamdulillah, that's the good news, is that it's all in our mindset.
yes.
Alhamdulillah, we have the mental ability to bring up all of these negatives. Allah has given us the mental ability to deal with all of these issues, inshallah. Right? So there's always a way out. We just have to trust in Him. But obviously, we have to do our part, tie the camel. So
Yes, exactly.
Um, so once we have dealt with all of our excuses, now comes the question: how can we self-edit? Like, how do I go about self-editing? Right? Because inshallah, the second step will be on the editor themselves, the professional editor. But the first part, as we said, with editing, the first process, the first step of the process that lies within your control. So how do you go about doing it? And I've just created this sort of sort of representation of what I'm going to explain. Is that once you have your manuscript ready, right? What you'd want to do is to look at it with a bigger picture in mind. Think of it as you are having an aerial view of your manuscript. Right? So you want to look at the organization of it. You want to look at the structure of your entire piece, entire manuscript. And so when you go into reading it and when you're beginning to revise, you would be paying attention to the concepts that are mentioned in your piece. So don't get into the grammar just yet. First, you want to get into the concepts that's mentioned, and you want to see if it's organized in a way you'd like it. The headings and the subheadings. If you'd like to split a point, imagine your content is long, content is going to be made up of blocks or sort of apartments, and you want to shift them, forward or backward. Maybe you want to rephrase a sentence somewhere. Maybe you want to add a sentence or the paragraph itself, or delete a paragraph. All of this restructuring is the first bit that you're going to get. Organization ready, right? With the manuscript, you're happy with the way it's organized. You have these many chapters, you have these many points under these chapters. This is like usually if it's non-fiction. If it's fiction, okay, you have got these many characters, and the events in each of the chapters are going to be in this way, not in any other way. Basically, organization. Once you are done with that, and you are happy with the structure of the points or the events, if it's fiction, then you go on to the zoomed in version. So from the aerial view, you're going to zoom in. This is where you go line by line, and you look at the grammar, you look at the spelling mistakes, the typos. Why we don't do this right at the beginning is because we may realize that later on when we are organizing, we're just going to delete the entire paragraph. We just want it in the context. So you have actually put in so much of effort and time to edit that paragraph when you realize later on that you don't even want it.
Yes.
So you don't want to be doing that. You want to finish your organization, and then you go on to the grammar and the spelling mistakes. There may be typos in there and inconsistencies. Inconsistencies basically refer to, let's say you've got, the start of the story, your character is having 5 children, but then somewhere in between you mentioned there's just 4 or 3. So these are inconsistencies in plot or inconsistencies in just word itself. And I find this happening quite a few times with Islamic content, where the spelling for these Arabic romanized words like Alhamdulillah or Allahu Akbar, it's not specifically set in the English dictionary, right? So some of the spellings sometimes vary throughout the manuscript. So you want to make sure that you've eliminated.
Choose one and stick with it.
Exactly. Choose anyone and stick with it throughout, right? So many of the times you can get away with a lot of things if you just choose one and stick with it, right? Because without getting too technical, there are things in the editing or in the English, business that you have. There are differences of opinion. You could say it's just pretty much like fiqh, I guess. There are differences of opinion, but then when you have one thing, you stick to it, throughout. You don't mix and match between two opinions, right? So that's the reason why I would suggest that when you self-edit, you go from an aerial view, and then you just sort of zoom into your editing, the grammar and all the nitty-gritty stuff, right? Inshallah. While we're on that topic, I've just got a few self-editing tips that I thought I would share. It'd be worth sharing. There are tons out there, and I'm sure that you would have gotten a lot of, you would be getting a lot of value and a lot of input from the self-editing topic itself that we have in the conference. I'm sure because that's like specifically talking about self-editing, but I just wanted to mention quite a few over here, just four that I thought would be worthy of sharing, inshallah. The first is to, when you are doing your self-editing, when you're self-editing, read it out loud. When you read your content out loud, you would, when you hear yourself, you would see, it would be easier for you to catch any mistakes and errors that are there inside. So read it out loud. Another tip I would like to give is use editing tools. Especially, this is especially if you're a beginner and if you find this sort of a daunting, process, then there are lots of editing tools that are available out there, and one such really famous one is Grammarly. So you don't have to make it hard on yourself. You could try to lighten the workload for yourself. But I should mention that this may not be enough. It may not even be accurate, but it can be handy if you are just beginning to self-edit. And definitely beyond this, the editor will give you a piece professional makeover, inshallah. Then another tip I'd like to give is to, and for some this may be tough, but as much as you can, try not to find it to be a daunting task. Enjoy the process. It doesn't have to be scary. Just think of it as you are finishing what you began, right? So you just want to start somewhere, and the editing would naturally flow, inshallah. And I'd like to give an example for those, especially who find editing to be really drab and just plain annoying. Just imagine any skill or any hobby that you have, right? You would love to perfect it, right? And I understand, I realize that as a writer, as an author, writing is a passion of yours. It is a hobby of yours. So all you are letting, what you're letting editing do is you are helping yourself perfect your writing skill. As I said, they both go hand in hand, right? So this skill of yours will be perfected only when you edit, right? And you don't have to call it edit if you don't like it. It's just trying to perfect your writing.
Yes, it's crucial to the writing journey, and it must be completed.
Absolutely. And in this case, I'd like to give an example of someone who likes cooking or baking, right? They look at everything. It's not just the taste and the ingredients that go into cooking or baking, whatever it is. It's also the taste that comes out of it, and even the presentation, right? Everything, all of it ties up together to make it a great dish, and that's what you want your work to have.
Not half cooked or half baked.
But I'm not a huge fan of cooking myself. So I do like editing though, but I know there are others out there who would be able to relate to this sort of an analogy. And finally, I would like for you to ask yourself if you would like to, hold and read a book, let alone buy one that doesn't have a good finish just because the author didn't feel like editing it or having it edited. Would it be worth the money? Would you be completely satisfied as a reader? And would you truly, really enjoy the reading experience? And it's highly likely that you would, highly unlikely, right? So that's exactly where you want to be as an author as well. Is that you don't want to be giving those sort of feelings to your reader, right? You want to be producing only the best, inshallah. So I'd like to tie up all of this with the theme of the conference, which is being an exceptional, confident, and successful writer. That's how it makes you exceptional. It makes you stand out from the crowd and from every other Tom, Dick, and Harry who claims that they can write. Because technically now, as we said in self-publishing, everyone can write, but it's if it's it's only if you can edit that would make the difference. So that's what makes you exceptional. And when you edit, it makes you confident as well of the execution of your work. You know for a fact that your manuscript has gone through trusted hands and eyes, and comfortable knowing that it went through some sort of a professional screening, right? So you feel confident with your finished work, and it would definitely make you a successful writer because the more you edit, the more or the effectively, the more you effectively edit, uh, you would have a bigger chance of having your work translate that effectiveness. The message that you have, the objective that you had would be translated much better, and you'd stand a chance of actually being able to make an effect and in making a change in your readers' lives and in helping you achieve your objective with the book. So that's what I want to say. And ultimately, I want everyone to take away that you are human, right? And your editor is human as well. So some mistakes and errors are bound to seep even to the final published version of the manuscript. But the point is, you want to minimize these errors as much as possible. You want to offer
Mm-hmm.
flawless support, and very well try to get it near perfect, inshallah. So here's to becoming an exceptional, confident, and successful writer, inshallah.
Um, now, Jazakumullah khairan, spoken and presented like a true editor. Ah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. The noise, the challenge of the echo and all that. Well, it was there. Yes, the challenge was there, but it didn't take away from the fact that your presentation was um, it was enlightening and insightful. It was a great presentation, despite the noise, the challenge from the noise. Jazakumullah khairan. Jazakumullah khairan for taking us through this journey. Jazakumullah khairan. I don't know if there's anybody in the comments that has any questions. Perhaps we can drop your slides for the attendees to download, so they'll be able to
Inshallah.
follow along because as Sabalkis mentioned here, during the background noise will still be in the recording unless we re-upload it. We may do that actually. We may have to do that. We may do that later to re-upload and we try to get rid of that background noise, but it's all good. It's all good. The presentation was still top notch. Jazakumullah khairan. So let me see if any. Now I'm listening. There's what?
Hello? Sorry. Yeah, there is, I don't know how we'd work this out, but a freebie for the viewers, inshallah, is to, if you'd like to test your self. Yeah, so where do I post it somewhere? It's just a document where you could test your self-editing skills. There are a couple of passages. One is fiction and non-fiction.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a link for it?
I'd have to come up with a link.
Oh, okay. It's a document. It's a document.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Maybe you can send me the document and I'll put it and I'll create a link where they can download it from.
All right.
Either that or maybe you create the link, whichever one will work. Whichever one, I'll include it in the description box alongside your bio and your social media handle, so that anyone who wants to follow or who has questions or who just wants to connect with you will do that. So everything will be in the description box. After the talk, we'll talk about how you get it across to me. Inshallah. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. You're giving us a freebie after giving us such such an amazing presentation. Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah reward you. May Allah reward you. I'll definitely like to take that test. You said it's a test, right? I'd like to take the test and see what I fall into. Now, I don't see any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Balkis. Afraz, where are you watching from? I think I've seen Sabalkis and Zainab, they're watching from Nigeria, but Afraz, I think this is your first time where you're watching from. Please let us know in the comments. Salaam alaikum.
Happens to be my sister.
Oh, your sister. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. Now, Jazakumullah khairan for coming and showing support to
family. Always to support. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. My sister is also here. She's also here as well. She's also here. So, Alhamdulillah, it's good. So, if there are no I can see Sabalkis is she's watching from South Africa, Johannesburg. Now, thank you, Jazakumullah khairan, for joining, for being present in all the talks. You've been present since yesterday. She has been present in all the talks. Day one, Jazakumullah khairan. Now, so are there any questions? Are there any questions? There are no questions. So possibly when the other attendees, catch up and come and watch, because not everyone is here. Some people, due to time differences, they can't join in, and maybe any other reason they can't join in. But they will, click the link and come back and watch it. So perhaps they may have questions. They will drop it or connect with you on your social media, your information that I'm going to drop in the description box. So keep an eye out for that. You may get questions or comments from people. And if they drop them here, I will send them to you. I'll send them over to you, inshallah, or via email, because some attendees have actually contacted me by email as well. So if I get any, I'll send them to you, inshallah. Nah, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Salima is saying Jazakumullah khairan. So, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting up. Jazakumullah khairan. And
Jazakallah khair for the opportunity. Alhamdulillah. When you asked me about, invited me rather, the main thing I thought was that editing would be the thing to go with, because it really needs to be talked about, because I think that there's not
yes, it does. It does.
Jazakallah khair for it.
Ameen, ameen, wa anti for Jazakallah khairan. May Allah reward you and our presenters for making this happen. We love you all for the sake of Allah too. You can see the comments, yes, Marwan.
There are quite a few comments which are, it's nice to know that Sister Bilqis is the one who said the presentation was more for her. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, Sister Bilqis. May Allah make this beneficial for whoever attends it, and
Ameen. Ameen, 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 ameen. Now, so we're going to end the broadcast now and get ready for the next talk, which will be coming up by 3 p.m. Inshallah. We're having a poet next. Inshallah. Inshallah. So see you all then. Inshallah.
Dua, inshallah.
What?
Shall I end with the dua?
Please.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا
لا
أنت
إله أنت
أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
أتوب إليك.
السلام
نعم.
عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.